especially in the world that I used to be in the nightclub industry, it would not benefit those nightclub owners to even ask those questions because at the time, they were in the throes of making more and more money on a nightly occurrence, and if they had a whale, as we called them, and like this book is written, we didn't ask where that money came from. I mean, when I left, I moved to Vegas. I opened up Tao. I worked with Noah and Jason, and our job was to bring in these clients. And whale is a term that came up, maybe a year or two into what we were doing in the nightclub in Vegas, because it hadn't really been cultivated, it hadn't been created yet. And one of my clients was the first person to start spending that kind of big money. And at the time, it started with 80,000 a night. Then it was 150,000. Then I went to 250. Then I went to 450. Everyone knew his name, from the places that we owned in New York to the Hamptons to, St. Bart's, and then back to Vegas. And then all the business owners wanted that one client. Now, I left Vegas right as Jolo became the new client. And he didn't even go through someone like me. I was the director of VIP operations. He would go through the owners. But I can guarantee you no one was asking where that money was coming from, because they were just excited that he would be in the room spending and having other people spend, right? Because people would be so excited that someone like Joe was there, so they would want to be there on that night. They would want to get to know him. And it behooved people to have him in their presence. So I'm sure no one wanted to even ask those questions.
Well, is it true that Jason and Noah bought Jolo a Lamborghini for his birthday because of all the money he spent?
I mean, I have heard that. I wasn't there, so I cannot confirm or deny. But yeah, I mean, that is something that would happen because people would. It was like, they would give back to their clients in whatever way, shape, or form. And Jolo was definitely one of the biggest clients that they had, that helped them help their business, profit like that. And so, it doesn't surprise me that one of the names at the end of your documentary is one of the owners of the nightclubs that does not want to talk, because why would they want to talk, right? What's in it for them? And not that they have been paid off, but they made enough money that they just want to wipe their hands of it, I would think.
Well, I think that's what is really disgusting about this whole story. There's the old joke. If you want to go to jail, steal a candy bar. If you want to become rich and famous, steal $1 billion.
Right.
And at every level of this scandal, you see people turning a blind eye because the numbers are so big. Their faces get flushed red with greed, and they'll turn the other way because they don't want to know where this money comes from, right? Like you said, he wants to just act like it never happened. And this scandal, more than any other financial scandal, is filled with dozens of people, maybe hundreds of people, who benefited from the largesse of this man, Jolo, who stole billions of dollars and then sprayed it around the world. So, of course, a lot of people benefited. And not just like crooked businessmen or shady nightclub owners, but even like the people that worked on his yacht, who were actually just like blue collar workers. I know Jolo helped finance like restaurants for some of these people, because it means nothing to him. When he would hang out with Leonardo DiCaprio, he would flip like $50,000 casino chips at random strangers.
Right.
It's because this money meant nothing to him. And Jordan Belfort, the actual Wolf of Wall Street, has a quote about this. They were at this massive party at Cannes that Jolo and Riza Aziz, his production partner, were throwing for their company Red Granite. And Jordan Belfort turned to his friend and said, they're spending money like they stole it. People that actually work for this money, they don't spend it like that. But, Jolo's the same guy who in Saint-Tropez dropped $4 million in one night on Cristal. So.
Right. And there are men like that. And I know a couple of them that spent a lot less, that, declared bankruptcy, lost everything, lost their family, their wives, but they're not on the run, so to speak. Okay. So if Goldman Sachs had not been involved, would the U.S. government have intervened in this fraud, do you think?
I do think that, just because the numbers were so vast, and really the legal precept that the U.S. involvement is based on is that because so many of these transactions were conducted in US dollars and routed through US financial institutions. And it's not just Goldman Sachs, because Goldman Sachs only got involved to facilitate a number of bond sales on behalf of 1MDB, and they really got their hands dirty. I'm talking like they knew what was happening. They took these bonds. Goldman Sachs bought the bonds themselves and then sold them aftermarket, which contravenes like normal investment bank practice. And they also charged 10 times the fees that they typically would. But aside from that, Jolo had an American lawyer. They were routing their money through accounts in Deutsche Bank, Chase, all these institutions. We have a massive graphic in the film that kind of has a logo of all these institutions that worked with or benefited from these transactions. So I think the U.S. government had a lot of incentive to get involved, not just from the geopolitical perspective, but because Jolo and his conspirators were just making a mockery of the U.S. financial system to conduct their money laundering.